We were just talking a little bit backstage about your new album and where your mindset has been lately. And I really want to talk to you about, I know there was a few events that inspired the record, going to the Smoky Mountains, obviously everything that's happening politically in the world, particularly with the environment. And I just want to touch base with you and see where your head was at when you were making this record, writing this record, and where you're at right now.
We took a trip to the Smoky Mountains. And that was about this time last year, before this time last year. During that trip, I was able to sit by rocks and rivers and streams and ask the earth what she wanted to say through me. She speaks through all of you when you're doing your creativity, or in your dance, or in your healing work. Doctors, nurses, midwives, writers, and that was what I asked, is please guide me and take over my body and snatch it. Invade me, Mother. And I prayed to her and said, as a faithful daughter, but a daughter who makes a lot of mistakes many times a day, show me. And I didn't hear anything. Not a word, not a note. Not for days or weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. The Albert Hall was getting booked. It was getting tricky. And then my mother started to get ill. And that was a real turning point, because I went to visit her in the early fall and tell her about my trip to the Smoky Mountains. And then she began to tell me about the stories that she had heard from her father and her aunts and uncles, and her relationship to the land. And little did I know that there would be a time when she couldn't speak to me anymore, which would be mid-January. So, in looking back, I was having a moment with this amazing woman who's my physical mother, who loves Mother Earth and was sharing with me her stories. And my goodness, that time I so treasure right now. And that those were the seeds really for some of the record. And then other events
Do you want to go deeper into the other events, or should we just
go deeper with you too?
I feel like all of our brains are already thinking about it already. But when we were talking, you had a good line that we were like, yeah, we should say that on stage. You were talking about sort of the information zone we're in, the overload of everything as an emotional taser.
Yes, emotional taser.
Explain that. What do you
Oh, they know. But it was okay, fine. That's how that energy is working. So Muses 9 said, T, wake the fuck up. Okay? Get out of your stunned, numb moment, because we're responding to energy. In November, responding to the energies, the conflicts, the arguments, saying to yourself, did you ever say to yourself, how did I have this argument with this person? What just happened back at the coffee thingy? What just happened? And then it became clear that I just needed to zip and observe and really allow the songs to come. And they started to not leave me alone. And God,
So it came together pretty quickly, it sounds like, obviously, for January being this sort of the fallout from events that happened in January, both in our country, with your mother, and in your life largely. And I'm a little curious if you could tell us about putting the record together. You still work with your husband, yes, in his studio and do all that, right?
sometimes he's my husband. When you work closely with, as you all know that do work with people that you're involved with, it's one of those things where it's hard to describe unless you do it. But yeah, you have to dive into the trenches and then into the deep water together. And that's what we did from early morning till, burning midnight oil. And in some ways it was exhilarating because once batches of songs would come, I was traveling a lot coming back to the States because of Netflix and Audrey and Daisy, but also because of my mother. So, really popping in and out of the energy here would bring another rush of ideas and songs. And then I'd go back with that batch, and then we begin recording those.
There's one song I want to ask you about specifically, Benjamin, because you talk about in the song, the pimps in Washington, referring to super PACs and all the sort of shadiness of what's happening in our government. But it struck me as so interesting because it was inspired by a specific court case that I'm hoping you can tell us about, because I had never heard of anything like this, and I thought it was kind of remarkable when I started looking into it.
Well, what started to happen is people started going through other people with messages to me. As I was saying to Jill, Putin isn't the only one with a back channel. So people were coming and saying, do you understand what's happening? And I would say, well, probably not, no. So can you explain to me? And information would be coming from people who work in the science world or civil servants, concerned people. And so therefore, I started to learn about Juliana versus the United States. And that started to open, a world that I didn't know about.
I want to pivot a little bit and ask you, musically, this record, it definitely sees you, having a few songs that are more electronic, which you've done in the past. You've done a lot of different styles musically over your career, but it got me kind of wondering about where you're at as an everyday listener, what kind of zone you live in and put on. I don't know, I guess maybe how you think of yourself as like a music fan and what you gravitate towards when you're listening to music, just yourself.
Well, I think I'm about ready to dive into Zappa. I wasn't ready until now, and I don't even know if I'm ready now, but I want to give it a go because I was watching his interviews, and it really woke me up. It woke me up. He was talking about these things, different things, but variations on the theme a while ago. Very, very smart person. And also an aware person, somebody who was looking, not conjuring things, but really looking at people's intentions and his own. And that was something that I don't really lit a firecracker inside myself. So I'm about ready to dive into his catalog. Yeah.
I love that little shake. That that struck me reading your bio, like as it stands, is you started and you talk about the National Theater director, Nick Heitner, and you talk about him talking about you, and he talks about how you're not mine. You know, people love you because of your raw emotion, and your pain is their pain. And it was so striking because I had never quite thought about it like that. Not to say you weren't Sondheim.
No, but I hadn't thought about it like he put it either. And I think sometimes when you are working with people in a close way, sometimes people say things that might shock you, but then it gives you gold. Because you realize, okay, I need to trust the strength of my work, and my work is emotion. And so even though things were happening, and are happening all the time, since November 8th, as far as energy, it was clear I needed to go to process it from an emotional place, from a human place, from the place of here, not the place of a political journalist, because that isn't my trade. That isn't my trade craft. And I found that once I started to get caught up in trying to create with somebody else's tool house, from tools from their world, then I realized, I said, what am I doing? I need to respect that somebody expresses themselves in their way, and then trust and take it to my world. And whatever that is, whatever it is your world is, it might not be politics. Mine isn't overtly that. Sometimes the records we were talking about contain that. This one is more than some. But Scarlet's Walk had an element of that too.
We're doing that record. Did you have it recently? I did that last week. Wasn't disappointed. You know, I have to wonder though, like, how a career sustaining that level of emotion and vulnerability, if there was ever a point where you're like, this hurts too much, because, you know, vulnerability and emotion are the things people use to hurt us too. That I don't know, I have to just imagine that sometimes it is your trade, but maybe it doesn't feel the best personally.
Well, you know, it's a privilege to create with the muses, it really is, and there are lonely times. There are times when it's lonely to work through something, chocolate song, the song on the record. Some events are tough to write about because they're so raw, and yet there's something in me that needs to put it in a song. And I'm sure some of you feel that. You know that you don't, maybe you buried your head in the sand for a while, but then you need to dance with it and make something with it.
You said this really beautiful thing when I last interviewed you. It was around when you put out Gold Dust, which was you brought this big orchestra, revisiting a lot of your songs, and kind of reinterpreting them a little bit, but still obviously staying very true to them. And you said this thing about the song girls, you know, the song girls in your songs, and how over the years people tell you things about your songs, what their songs meant to you, and these song girls kind of have little Polaroids, and you can look at them and you can see all the people that told you the stories. And I have to wonder if that makes it easier or harder to sing them at all.
When people tell me their relationship with the songs have always said to me, your relationship, T, is your relationship, and is happening here with somebody else's vision of chocolate zone and somebody else's vision over here, and all of a sudden you have a little chocolate solar system happening. And there's no downside to that.
There's no downside. I guess I have to wonder, once you become a conduit, to have people like give you their stories about some of these really heavy things, if it ever can be too much.
You have to find a way to ground yourself. You have to find a way to really take that energy back here, Kundalini, I guess you call it, and I lock it down deep into the earth. Lock it down. Mine are piano chords, the wires from the piano, made of light, and go down deep into the earth, and there's a moon inside the earth, and it's anchored so that those stories are running through and into the Great Mother, because that's whom I serve. And that's an energy, the divine mother, the divine feminine. And I ask her for guidance, and so when I'm listening, Jill, I don't go out there without being prepared. Because that's disrespectful to the energies themselves. I mean, they're powerful things. So if you're going to do that, I mean, all kidding aside and jokes aside, it's very serious, and I take it very seriously. And then when I walk on stage, whatever Tori's been up to, you know, that has to go aside because something else has to come through. And there's stage there, and there is a ritual of sacredness when you approach the fire ceremony on stage that is sonic, and that's how it works.
You have done a lot of different projects about this idea of having these different personalities in yourself and sort of this siloing of the selves. And I really have to wonder when that started for you in your life, when you started to be able to say, like, this is this part of me, and this is this part of me, and it all kind of came together, and the work became the place for that. When did that start? Do you remember? Or has it always been there?
Good question. I'm not sure. I think reading mythology was a window. Edith Hamilton, the Greek myths, we were being taught it in school, and everybody in class would be choosing, so I'm Persephone, or I'm this, or I'm that. And then I think the challenge would become, well, maybe we're all of them in different ways, these archetypes. So it would be almost allowing what does Hera feel like? What is that? And there was a curiosity, I guess. And then to write songs from the point of view of that. And then, of course, I couldn't resist, the dudes, because then you try them on and see how that feels. But that really didn't get expressed, I'd say, if I'm honest with you, until later. Pele was the beginning.
You have made this really conceptual art. So many of your records have these overarching things you're going for. And you've made most of your work on major labels, and I have to wonder if there was a record or a project that you had to fight the most for, to get, for lack of a better term, suits to understand, or if your level of, having fans that were so receptive to you guarded you from that.
Well, they've done an amazing fucking job, these people. However, I will say that through the 90s, there were different fights for different reasons, and some of it will bore you senseless, but there were different fights because a lot of times everything is about out there. How out there? They're not talking about you people sitting here. They might think they are, but out there. Tori should be wearing chinos. I remember that. And hair bands. Those, you know what's it? It's like, what? No, chino. No. So, if you know her, you will understand. And yeah, you have these people in a boardroom talking about Tori and chinos. Now, what a waste of time. And the people that are coming to see her, they don't want to see her in fucking chinos.
Work for you.
And I don't know the shoe they were contemplating. That these meetings can't handle my heart would take place. It would take place. Because, we can go into it, but advertisers were running radio, and if they didn't like what you were talking about, or you're upsetting they don't agree with your ideology, then guess what? You don't get played when their commercial is running. So just imagine, I'm sure you can figure, I'm sure most of you already have figured it out. So you think, oh, so that brand won't play these artists because they're not wearing chinos or what have you. So those were the battles that would be happening all the time. And there would be moments when you had people you could work with who could see beyond that, because there are those people there. But I would say because the internet has gotten stronger, for me in my world, it has given the songs more freedom and caravans more freedom to create, because you all have been strong and powerful, and your message has been clear.
You know, you're bringing up this great point about like advertisers and forces sort of nebulous, not liking things you're saying. You had a lot of things for people to not like because you were saying things other people weren't saying. And I will never forget being young and watching you on of all things the Roseanne Barr show, explaining how Rain came to be. And I rewatched this interview a couple days ago. And I'm wondering if you could just share that, the incident with the young girl and needing to give her guidance somehow, because I never forgot it.
What was so difficult at that time was that the internet, it's not, of course, like it is now. So trying to get information after hearing the story, and the story, some of you have heard it many times, but a girl was fainting during being done the song. And I went backstage, they were reviving her, and she said, I can't go home tonight. My stepfather will rape me as he did last night, as he will the next night. And my mother won't believe me. So then we thought, well, maybe we could come up with something for her to do on the road. I wasn't thinking it through, but then I was told that if I took her with our crew and gave her a job, that I would be arrested because we were crossing state line. So in that moment, it was very clear that this needed a tribe of people people. This needed an organization. And the great ladies at Atlantic Records, a group of them, got us connected with Scott Berkowitz in Washington, and we joined forces to create Rain. And it was that harrowing moment of watching her walk out that door. And I've never seen her again. I have no idea what happened to her.
She never reached out to you?
Never.
I'm actually really surprised by that.
Yeah, but we don't know what happened.
No.
And that I will never forget. Because you go back in time and say, should I have done something different? Sure, you ask yourself that all the time. Yeah.
I don't want to make you recount things I know you talked about before, but when I did talk to you last, you told me this other story that, again, I'm never gonna forget it, and I would love if you would share it. You were talking about traveling in the Middle East, and a woman coming up to you in an airport bathroom. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Do you share this? Do you mind?
Well, she talked to me about, I was in the ladies' laboratory, and she came up to me and said, don't stop writing the songs. Don't stop writing the painful, important songs, because we listen in secret. We listen when no one knows we're listening, but we are listening. Sister.
I think of you every time there is a new song that comes out that is about assault. Because for a long time, your songs were the only songs overtly about that. And occupying that space in the mainstream, I think of the Kesha song that came out not too long ago, God Still It Happens to You. You've been so close to this cause, and you have had so many people share their stories. I'm really curious if you think the world is getting better at listening to these issues and not siloing them off and saying, this is a woman's issue. Like, do you think we're getting better at saying, this is a person issue, this is a people issue, this isn't a niche interest?
It's divided. There are some people who are saying this is a person issue, and we are listening. And it's endemic for young men as well as young women. Because there is another part of our culture that doesn't want to talk about it, or they numb, or they just don't want to deal with it. Because then we have to deal with the bigger problem, don't we? We have to deal with the really big problem. How is this happening? Why is this happening? Where is the spirituality in our daily walk? A lot of people are talking the talk, talking about Christ consciousness, but I don't see a lot of Christ consciousness. And that is really worrying. That just yesterday, I was speaking with a young woman who is a reporter, and she is very active on her college campus in Pennsylvania, and she told me, you have no idea how prolific this is on my campus. And I won't say what the campus is because that's her story to tell. But she talked to me and said, doesn't stop. And it's young women being attacked and young men being attacked. And so something is really broken, isn't it? It's broken in society. And that's why I feel We come together, sharing stories, collaborating to shift some energy. And some of the energy is dark, but it needs to be shifted. And with the power of numbers and the power of Great Mother, the divine masculine, the divine feminine energies, we can shift it within ourselves. And that's a start. And it's an important start.
Before we move on, I do just want to thank you for being that person, that was talking about these things when other people weren't talking about these things. It was really important. So, I'm going to change gears wildly. I don't know if you've seen, there's an amazing 11-minute video of you yelling at security versus yelling at room fans on YouTube on your shows. And it's amazing. And you have this great sense of peacekeeping, and I am curious if that started because you did start playing, the bar circuit when you were, what, like 13 years old? 14 years old?
13 years old. Yes. June, when I was 13 years old. So that's 40 years. Is that yeah, long time ago.
I mean, I imagine in that setting, you probably had to do a bit of peacekeeping with like rowdy your crowds. Is that where that instinct comes from, or is it just like you're being fucking rude? This is my stage.
Well, yeah. I think when enough beer gets spilled on a piano, and the piano gets tuned and the piano's trying, yes, it lives in the bar room and it accepts, I live in the bar room. This is my life. It has to cry. Why can't the beer stay in the glass or in the tubby? Why does it have to go to the piano? So sometimes I be cleaning up around people, trying to make sure the piano is okay. And then there are other times I think, until you are out there and people aren't coming to see you, but you're there to entertain, the great thing about playing the bar circuit is you really learn. Boy, you learn when people just weren't hoping to hear from you that night. So, I don't know if we talked about this, Jill, but that is something whereby I do think you can miss a step as a performer if you go from the internet in your bedroom to Madison Square Garden. It might sound like a dream, but I would suggest when you all are dreaming about your careers, you do want to do, I understand skipping a few steps of the ladder. I mean, 11 years in the bar room is a little bit long, I agree. But there is, again, that word gold. There is gold to be found in having to have those hecklers. That's how you're able to take your shoe off in fucking Croatia.
Alright, I think we're going to wrap up and then get to all of y'all's, I'm sure, many questions, deep, insightful. I'm actually very excited to hear them. But now that we're talking about live shows, I love a good Tori live show because there is such a playfulness in it, and you really have a lot of fun, especially with your covers. And last tour you did, you were covering everybody from like Rihanna to 9 Inch Nails, and you've done cover records. Everybody knows about your love of covers, but I have to wonder if there's a song you just couldn't cover, is uncoverable, whether you tried it and you were like, this is not me, this isn't any of the personalities of me, or it just, you couldn't do it for some other reason.
Sure, yeah, there are loads. There are loads that I look at and say, it's somebody else's to cover. I think you have to find a way into something. You have to know you can hold the energy. And if I can't hold it, I still want to cover, there are a couple things I haven't given up on. There's a Queen song I haven't given up on.
Well, do you want to tell us which one? You can do that as you do. Perhaps we'll look up on the internet someday. I'll watch it on YouTube. But yeah, I think that was all between us, and then Elia is going to circulate with some mics, so, you know, be patient and raise your hand, and yeah, good luck.
Thank you, Jill. And
Thank you.
Speaking of covers, I'm down here. Hi. Speaking of covers, you've only done it once in a while, but you said that you loved it. Boys in the Trees. Could you tell us why you love it, and maybe you plead and someday you play it again?
well, I love Carly so much. And she sent me something lovely when I was pregnant with Tashi. And it was a wonderful message. We connected backstage somewhere. What a light. And when you connect with these people, I was listening to that record when I was, I don't know, younger, much younger. Well, I can remember. I don't know when it came out now. I can't remember. But I remember being young, and I just couldn't stop listening to it. So yeah, of course she needs to come. The version.
Thank you.
This is terrifying. Hi.
Hi, don't be terrified.
I wrote a college paper on how you're kind of addressing a trauma, kind of bears witness to other people's kind of trauma, and how that might kind of, I don't know, elevate them to speak out on those things. Did you ever have an experience with an artist where you were courageous enough to see them and then say, wow, I can do this myself and explain my own emotions? You know what I mean? Or did it come from yourself?
Well, there were so many records that I listened to that expressed things that I didn't know how to express them. I just didn't know how to do it. River, Joni Mitchell, so many songs, endless amounts of songs, but also things like No Quarter, Led Zeppelin, things that I couldn't express as a Christian female minister's daughter. I wasn't supposed to pick up that 220 voltage, and yet I couldn't resist. And I'd be trembling by the record player listening to all kinds of different records, not just one kind, but different ones. And that helped me deal with, we're back to that emotional taser moment of being stunned, unable to express. And that is where I've heard some people have felt that they've been in the last many, many months. And so we have to shake that loose. And we are shaking that loose.
Hi, Tori.
Where are you?
I'm right here. I love you. Looking forward to seeing you at the Beacon Theater. I have a question about self-doubt. In terms of, they say doubt will kill more dreams than failure ever will. You being such a prolific artist, 15 albums in, how do you snap out of it if you ever do encounter it still?
Well, doubt is going to show up because that's her job. And so sometimes the best thing I've had to learn over the years is to sit down with her and let her just talk. Here, Dal, here's your drink. I'm gonna sit and listen to you. Tell me all the reasons I can't do this. Or we can't do this, because that's what it's really about, that we can't do this. And then once you listen, I have found that Dal does bring up some good points. Really. And sometimes it's wise to listen to her points, because she might say, well, why are you doing this? Good question, Doubt. These are good things to ask yourself. Because, we can all hide from, can't we, what we're up to? I love it when the rockers used to say, when they say, why are you in rock and roll? Because I want to meet hot birds and drive fast cars and make lots of money. And you go, okay, well, he's being very honest about that. It doesn't mean he didn't make great music. It didn't mean he wasn't a great singer. But it's really good to know why you're doing something and being honest with it. And doubt is good to have to check you. It's like, check me, doubt. And then you go, okay, so I'm up to that. So that's good to know. So then you welcome her. And then you create. It works.
Okay.
Where are you?
Hi.
Hi.
I had a dream last week that we had this moment, so this is. Okay, so I just wanted to ask, you have a lot of songs that really speak to kind of the queer community and about kind of feeling, like an outsider and then kind of finding your wings and finding your freedom. Songs like Murmrr, Take to the Sky, Flying Dutchman, all of those really speak there. My question is, was there a moment in your life that inspired songs like that? And also, is there a song like that on the next record that continues that theme?
Yes. Here's the song on the next record. I continue that. But I guess, I was in a very vulnerable state when I was working in Washington, D.C. And because of my age, and in a way, you're in the belly of the beast, especially in Washington. When you're in an adult world and you're a 13-year-old, a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old. But it was the gay community that gave me confidence in how to conduct myself. And they would say, what are you doing? Why are you singing like that? I said, well, like how? Like that. With your hands on your break. I said, no. How should I sit? And then you get the whole coordinate thing. You need to sit like this. Okay? You need to be like this. Shoulders up. Where's your confidence? Walk in the room. Don't you see who you are? And then I go, no. And so there was a real bonding that happened in those years of growing up together, of sharing secrets, of hiding feelings, because I was in a very religious household, as some of you all were. And so certain feelings were judged, so to protect them, I hid them. And I think it's because we shared with those men and women those secrets. We grew up together. So there's that bond.
so that Tori can see who's asking the questions? Thanks, Jane.
Hi. I'm a playwright, and you've been one of the biggest influences on my work as an artist, and I want to thank you so much for that. But mostly I'm interested to hear about The Light Princess, and I'm really interested because I love it, and I'm really interested to hear how working in theater influenced you as an artist and what it might have changed for you in your process, if anything.
Well, working with people like Sam Madison and the whole gang was life-changing. It was life-changing. Walking into a different world, different process. Not being in charge. Boy, was that a process. And I wonder, you always wonder if the opposite, if they walked into our world, how they would have felt, what they would have wanted to know, if I would have been gracious with them, as some of them were very gracious with me. So it's a life changer. A life changer. Don't know what else to say, except I'm a different person because of it.
Thank you for the music and for the tour. I really appreciate you continuing to create. My question is, I guess, to make it a little bit more personal. Recently I had a conversation with my sister-in-law. My brother has 3 nephews, but 3 sons. I have 3 nephews. About mothers. And my mother walked.
Something happened?
I can speak up. Hello. Yeah. My mother watched the hands of my father, a lot of abuse being done to me especially, and I feel like the past 3 questions kind of summed up that process. As a child who was growing up and who was gay. And doubt is certainly something that's playing in my mind. I'm 34 years old. I know what I need to do, but my mother's voice, I know, will say that's the wrong decision for her reasons, not for my reasons. I guess, how do you begin to navigate understanding that regardless of her crimes, she's still very important to me, and a mother is kind of that umbilical cord, that cord that grounds us into the Mother Earth. That I need to forgive and I need to move on, but that I need to hear my own voice. How do you begin to navigate that?
Well, it sounds like you're beginning to do that. Chocolate, carry water. The road to forgiveness. Wow, what a road. I'm still walking that road, trying to learn every day. But sometimes it's also allowing myself to not be the need that people around me need me to be. So have you ever been around a group of friends or a group of family and you're the one that's the organizer, or you're the one that always makes sure everybody gets home, or you're the one that is always, I don't know, fixing everything? And then you think, there's another side to me that they don't know. And that side needs to be allowed to express himself, herself. Because for a long time, and the records were diving into this at different times, songs that say, you're not the one in the friendship group that needs to hold this space. You need to hold a different space for yourself. And boy, that's a life's journey. So congratulations that you're on that road.
Hi, Tori.
Hi.
My name is Sean.
Hi, Sean.
I'm super nervous. Super nervous. So my question to you is sort of about the fights of the 90s. I discovered you in 1996. It was 2 o'clock in the morning. It was Call Lights These on MTV, which is probably the only time that it ever played on MTV.
Yeah.
And I remember I was instantly connected to you, and I immediately went out and I bought all the previous albums, and I did everything you could in the mid-90s to find out more, because the internet wasn't there. And I was so frustrated. I was so frustrated that the rest of the world didn't see what I saw. And I was like, how is this woman going to stick around? I had no idea. And then 2 years later...
Because of you, Sean.
Yes. So I'm getting to the question, I promise. 2 years later, the Choir World Tour, it was the first time that I saw you live. And when I got there, I think it was Madison Square Garden, and it was sold out. Like, there were so many people that had come to see you, and I knew right then and there that, like, all of my fears about, or my frustrations just weren't valid. Like, I knew that you would be around for a long time. So my question, finally, is, when did you come to that realization that you didn't need to be the top 10 on TRL or on MTV every 30 minutes in order to keep this career and do what you love and not sell out? Holy crap.
Well done. Well, the first time you realize that is when you're in a bustier, and it's 1988. That had talked to you and said, yeah, I'll be there. Come on over, old chap. Nobody's taking your call. After the record comes out and Billboard does its thing, then you begin to realize, Sean, why am I doing this? What am I making art for? Be honest with yourself, Tori. What are you doing? You were sucked in, weren't you? With that bustier. You were sucked in. Fame is an amazing seductress, and we can all get bitten by it. Hey-ho. It happens. It happens. And it happens periodically. Until menopause. And then you realize, once you get through menopause, fuck fame.
We have time for just a few more quick questions.
Hi, Tori.
Hello, Amos.
That was a lot louder than I was expecting, sorry. I'm Sarah. First of all, on behalf of all the other strange little girls growing up, feeling like they don't belong, like nobody understands them, that was my experience. I heard your music and I thought, yes, this woman gets me, she knows me, we've never met, but you know me. And that's been really important for me growing up and coming of age. So thank you for that. My question is, so many, but I've had to have conversations with myself with, little me in repair of things, life experiences, and if you're comfortable sharing, I want to know if you've had those conversations with little Tori and what, if anything, you would say to her now.
We all have conversations, and me too, I think, with parts of ourselves at different times. I'm going back to a part of myself that was sitting with Mary while she could still talk. Because there's something that correlates with Mary being trapped and forces trying to trap our great mother, Mother Earth. Whether they're trying to exploit her or whatever it is. And Lady Liberty is part of that story. And sitting with Mary, when she could talk to me, those things she told me are tattooed, emblazoned on my being. Because now, Mary is desperately trying to communicate, but isn't able to communicate. Yes, she is her love and her eyes, but she's very frustrated, and yet she's fighting to be here. So I have conversations right now with myself to go back and say, please be present when Mary is talking with you. Don't look at your phone. Did you look at your phone? Yeah, you looked at your phone. You looked at your phone too many times. But, okay. But still, Mary is teaching me even now. She's teaching me now through her bravery to face this stroke with as much dignity as she can muster. And there's a song on the record called Mary's Eyes that's inspired by Mary's journey. And it's been humbling to watch this woman fight to be on this planet.
Hi, Tori.
Hi, where are you?
My name is Zach. So, like many people here, I have been following you since I was 15 and I'm 37 now. And sometimes I say, wow, I'm getting old to do this, but I do it every time anyway.
I hear you say
I'm so grateful that you're still around. Making music for all of us. So my question is sort of a piggyback, serendipitously on the last question. So speaking of my 15-year-old self, my angsty, depressed, sad, suburban, closeted 15-year-old self, I have songs of yours that are so important to me, especially if I listen to something off Little Earthquakes, so special to me that I almost can't even listen to it now, except for live, because it takes me somewhere that it's hard for me to be. And I was wondering if you had like a song from your own, or a song from your teenhood or angsty time that brings you somewhere that is almost so painful for you to listen to. You're proud of where you come from, but it takes you somewhere that you're not necessarily comfortable going back to.
I think there's songs that do that, sure. And that's their job. And that job is an easy job. It's not always the job that you think, oh, God, I'd love to have that job. Sort of like when Netflix called me up and said, oh, you want to write something for us? And I said to Tash, that would be fun. Netflix is calling, you know, the magic ends. She's looking at me, the magic end? I said, yeah, the magic end's coming. How about that? She goes, Mom, nobody calls you for fun. I hope that I answered your question. Of course, there are songs. But, you know, it is a tough job sometimes, I guess. But I don't know if you're a song. Imagine that a minute. It's this 36-year-old goddess out there in the road. She doesn't want to listen to me because I'm taking her to a place. Well, but maybe we can hold hands together when she does want to listen to me. Because those songs, I think, if they take us through a tough time, no, they're not. They shouldn't be when you're in your disco outfit, maybe. Maybe that's not the time to bring them out, or when you've got your makeup already on a Saturday night. But there are times to bring them out. Of course I have them. They're very dear to me. And some songs I don't play because they really push me, especially if something's going on personally in my life, and that song is very connected to that. Then, you know, you make a choice perhaps not to be dragging your audience through something that night. So I understand what you're saying. And of course I have those songs. But I find that I need to play the wrong band more. I want to get the mic. Once you do this, there are a couple people down here too.
Perfect.
Okay.
Hello, we're old friends. Michael from Milton and Tori has been like a gazillion years. You and Chelsea and Tony Lucia, everyone used to come in and see me. Anyway, I just wanted to say hi. And then I also wanted to just ask you a question, which was, as far as the song meanings, I think we all look around online about the song meanings and what you have to say about them or what others are interpreting them. And I was curious if you were ever planning to publish anything that would detail out more of it, or do you prefer to leave it to the listener?
Okay. Could you talk into the mic a
I'm sorry.
little bit more?
I'm sorry.
I don't mean to produce you.
No. I said, first of all, World Friends, I used to take care of you, Chelsea, Tony Lucia, everyone, and Bill Cantonori, your driver, everyone, a gazillion years ago. You once told me you guys that nowhere else you'd rather be than dining with Cantonori there. But I wanted to ask you a question, which was about song meanings, and if you were planning to ever publish what your meanings were, or if you just prefer to leave them to the listener, really.
Okay. Yeah. I couldn't get that.
I could give you a quick.
Can you?
Yeah.
Because there's a bounce going on.
He used to take care of you at a restaurant called Il Cantonore.
Oh, bloody hell.
And you and your driver loved it.
Oh my gosh, you're not the waiter that overcharged me the wine.
And your thoughts?
On the contrary, I smuggled magnums of wine through Tony Lucia into at concerts. Anyway, as far as song meanings and whatever, all of us, I think, look around online to see what you have to say about them. Not always is there, information about it, but other people talk about what they think the songs mean to them. And I was curious if you would ever think of publishing something that would detail out the meanings of some of your songs, or if you prefer to leave it to the listener.
Okay. So he's asked a good question. If the meanings of the songs would ever be published, what I'm curious about though is the meanings that other people think they mean. Because I think they're, like you talked about, that's just as worthy. I'm quite curious to know what people are going to tell me when they talk to me after listening to the new album. And the visions that you get, and the messages that you get. Please don't be strangers. Tell me, and we'll weave them into the songs live, because we need to. I think I know what the new album's about. But I'm open.
All right, we're going to Tori's choice here for the last couple questions.
Thank you so much. So in my line of work, I help people kind of reclaim their body from trauma. And something I hear very often talking to people is they have a problem with allowing themselves to feel pride or, proud of success or accomplishment. And so I guess my question to you is, was there a turning point for you at some point in your career where you got to sit back and you thought, fuck, I'm for the first time actually proud of myself and what I'm doing in this trail that you may have not known you were blazing at the time, but that you were blazing? Is there a moment that just stands out that you got to reclaim yourself through pride?
Well, honestly, being able to connect with people and have a collaboration is such a, I don't know what the word is. There's a unity and a completeness that in that moment, I'm not aware of all the work that I have to do tomorrow on the path to healing and working through my crap that is there, of course, till I leave the planet. But in the moment of unity and songs, there is a completeness. There are times when sharing with people like we're doing through the music, though usually there is just, I don't want anything else. And that I don't even need or want accomplishment. It kind of transcends that moment because you're aware that you've gotten somewhere you haven't before. And of course, that's a big step in recovery. Because when you can feel that completeness with other people joining hands, that happens usually once a night live. And that is such a blessing to be able to feel that. And part of that is because of the people who came, because of you. So that's you. And you. And you.
Hi, Tori. It is loud. I have a gift for you, and I've been hanging around the venue since 1 p.m., and I know that there's at least one other person who has a gift for you, and some people who have written cards and letters. So I'm wondering if I may give you my gift now, and if there's a way that other people can get their cards and letters
That would
to
be
you as
helpful,
well.
guys. Thank you. Thank you. That you're so kind. Thank you.
Please feel free to catch me and give any presents or cards or flowers. Thank you to everyone who's raised their hand. I'm so sorry we can't get to everyone. We would get out to as many as we could.
We'll do this last one.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tori. I can't tell you how much you mean to me. I love you. I've been listening to you since I was a senior in high school when I first started Pele. You've been with me through every traumatic and beautiful moment of my life. Thank you. Thank you. I can't express how much you mean to me. My question is actually twofold. I think it's not just one to ask, so hopefully you can answer both. As someone who is so aligned with the goddess energy and the sacred feminine, how can I stop fearing losing my power as I get older? Yes! And I just have another question. I'm surrounded by so many creative people, a beautiful creative man who's brilliant, a successful mother that's a tough act to follow. As a writer, the muses speak to me, but I have a hard time bringing their ideas that they give to me to fruition. As someone as prolific as you, how can I find the dedication and drive to bring my story girls to completion, and what's stopping me? Thank you. That's a lot.
Okay, let's start with the end, and then we'll go back to the beginning. So, with your creativity, everybody who's creative in here knows there are moments of, well, muses are, I can almost touch them. They're this close. And then there are times when I am struggling to even see them in the distance, even a flicker of them. So that means, though, I've had to come up with ways, you have to come up with ways, where you take a pilgrimage. Now that might be in the seat of your rocking chair. Doesn't mean that you go to Arizona, but maybe you do. I've gone to Arizona. I've gone on pilgrimage to Arizona, the place, but I've also sat in my rocking chair and gone to Arizona. And so there's a place for listening. Good writers need to listen. Musicians, it's a little different if you're not writers because you're always working on your chops, and I get that. But when you're writing, the important thing, because your chops need to be there, right? That's a given, is to listen. You listen to everything, to the pulse of the traffic, everything. And the reason for this is the rhythms around you, and you start them becoming part of it. So creating isn't, oh, from 11 till 2:15, I'm going to do that. No. You're a walking, listening creator. That's who you are. Even when you're not actively doing it. Songs are being written right now. I might not know them yet. But they are because you're listening, because you're present. Most important thing for creators. Present. You are there in that moment. I am not having my heirloom tomatoes that I'm going to be having in my Bordeaux at 10:27 tonight. I'm with this beautiful lady sitting here talking with me and teaching me something because you brought up a very important thing, and we'll end with this. And thank you for coming, and I hope to see you out there. Age. 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 The elders, whatever that looks like to us, have not been necessarily acknowledged in Western culture. The idea of experience, the idea of knowledge is one thing, isn't it? But my goodness, wisdom is something totally different than that. Knowledge plus experience equals wisdom. And I'm sorry, but you can't have that when you're a 28-year-old. You can have a lot, you can have your experiences till then, but you don't know menopause. And until you do, my friends, look what you have to look forward to. You have something wonderful to look forward to. But you have to make it through it. To the other side. Because once you get to the other side, you are fucking free. But what are you free of? You have to be free of objectification. No, it's about being a listener at the fire. You don't need to be the subject. You've been the subject, and oh, you were such a good subject. Yeah, you. You're cute, all of you. And some of you, you're the case too. But when you step into that place, that's a different place at the fire. Now that's an important place. And you cannot buy that place, my angel. The this, honey, they're not gonna buy it for you because they can't. It must be earned. It's chop wood, carry water, do your work, apply it to yourself. All I can do is change myself, work on myself, cry with myself, disappoint myself daily, but hey ho, that happens. It's okay. That's okay. What's not okay is burying my head in the sand at these crucial times. Crucial times. History will look back. Our grandchildren or great nephews, nieces will say, where were you? Mary does this thing. She says, she's able to say, I love you. And she makes sure that it's something she tells everybody. Everybody. No matter who they are, whatever their politics are, you get for Mary. And it is the most beautiful thing to see because she's transcending politics. Now, I'm not there. That's not where I am. That's not my walk right now. So, age. It's something that gets projected and only we can take it on. Or decide, no, I'm going to redefine who I am by my deeds, not by my age. But I'm going to embrace 54. I'm embracing it. Can't wait.
Tori, Amos, thank you so much. Please join us again for